Pink Duck. This is the studio, it's the space, it's the spot. Handcrafted with memories and, I feel like I know this place because I've fanboyed out, during sort of videos that have gone up online and stuff. You're making records in here, and I know you do the Vultures record in here, and you've done some
Monkeys, and but the list is from the Hives to Gaga. We did Lady Gaga.
Spinnerettes recorded in here.
Spinnerettes,
Brody's because it's both yours, yeah.
Yeah, and the Eagles death metal, but other bands have rented it. It's not a commercial place, but it's sort of like.
How do you do that? How do you judge that then?
Well, I have all my secrets in here, and I have the things I care about. That, I have, pictures of me as a really short person here, and so I'm careful about who I let in, and it's based on money. No, I'm just kidding. That'd be cool if it was just like based on the amount of dough. No,
I trust you.
Yeah,
I trust this.
I trust this check. It's like it's not going to cash itself.
This new album is ferocious and brilliant and freewheeling in arrangement and brilliantly produced and mixed, and it's got the essence of these great songs. And then just when I think you're going to put a ribbon on it and put the box on the shelf, you unwrap it again and throw it against the wall, and it's just a great, really great ride, man. 9 songs.
Yeah, 9 songs is the right thing for now. I think too, because it's not quite enough.
So you met Mark when you were working on Gaga, right?
I did. I'd met him a couple late nights before that, here and there. Within an hour of working with him on this Lady Gaga stuff, the references, that glossary you used to talk about stuff, and what was important to him, and I realized there's grand overlap of interest and fascination and elation in making music,
Because for you, you're a producer, Josh. You produced Vultures, you produce Monkeys, you produce Queens of the Stone Age. You've learned what you need to know to make your records sound big. So why a producer at all? And in particular, beyond the glossary, why him? Because you know how you want your band to sound.
Yeah, well, and to a certain extent, I know that it could also, I could render someone so it's unchangeable, And so there's a safety in knowing that, but also I think it's our 7th record, and we have the luxury of having found a sound that's ours. But by the 7th record, if you're not careful, that's parody, and you end up a cartoon character on the wall. And I think
a sad clown.
Yeah, that sad clown is in here. No, I think. There's a need to sort of identify who you are now. And while the most dangerous game is to retain that sense of self and take the risk to be something new. And I realized that that's really where I wanted to go with this, especially because that would be exciting too. If you could unlock that code of reorientating your sound, then your newest record needs to be the very best one that's made off of the experience and failures of the last one, so that you could actually, that could make you a better person. You could leave baggage behind. There's so much that could happen if you make a great record and you really mean it.
Was it exciting? Was it fun to make?
What's interesting is that we always have fun because we get along and we are honest and talk about things, but they get more difficult to make somehow. You think you're making something that wasn't there, but somehow it feels like I'm mining, taking something out, and then it's gone. If I can find a way to be really honest, and especially if it feels scary, that's the right direction. Because everyone's afraid, but now what are you going to do? And honestly, who cares? Because in the last couple of years, especially, I've always been obsessed with now, knowing that that's all you'll ever get. You will not. Too much worry about yesterday or tomorrow is really cheating yourself.
What brought that on? What was the tipping point for that? Was it becoming a dad or watching your children grow? Was it an experience aside from life?
I had an experience when I was young where I almost, didn't make it, and where I had to swim and swim and swim, and I remember getting out of the water after like a long time and sort of making it and thinking, I'm not going to wait for anything. This is really no point in waiting because it could just be like that. And I think that was always a little bit in me, anyways. But I was about 12, and then things have occurred where I felt better when I took advantage of now, and then didn't feel great when I waited, when I felt like, oh, I should have, and not wanting to say I should have. And then, you know, you have things in the last, you know, year and a half that really have cemented all that in, you know, where someone could punch your ticket and that would be it. And I have no interest in waiting. And I also want to influence people not to wait, because you know, we don't do politics and all that. We're like an ice cream parlor or an arcade. You know, you just go and get away from your other worlds. You know, I don't want Queens to have any relevance in like your daily grind, unless it's like, you know, and so I feel like encouraging, if we're gonna slather something all over you, it should be like, now is the time.
Feet Don't Fail Me, right? That's an appropriate way to start a new record then.
Yeah.
You know, and it's got this really great tension at the beginning of it, this sense that something is coming, this impending like doom. It's behind you. And then, you know, in the past we've expected you to come out with a hammer made entirely of concrete and smash us around the face, and you actually take us to the dance floor with the first record.
Yeah. I think that notion of trying to meld the fact with some of your hobbies too. I love to go dancing, you know. And I think it's a really great symbol of your willingness. If you're willing to dance, you know, and to influence people to dance, to influence people to take now seriously, and also it's a dirty little trick up front. You know, it's almost like that's the old us in the front, and then smash that.
The second song on the record is Joy. It's called The Way You Used To, and
it's actually The Way You Used to Do, which is bad English, but that's okay. Yeah.
Is that what it's officially called?
Yeah, The Way You Used to Do. Yeah, The Way You Used to Do.
Oh my God, it's like potentially your biggest hit record, and you've just it with the title.
Who cares? It's just the way you formerly wanted to.
It's 64 after 53 in the hour. This is like they want to do it when they used to do it.
This is Blazer coming at you cordless. It was fun to be the DJ with all that, you know. It's like, great. That's why I gotta do
You're coming back.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back.
So that song, whatever it's called,
there's two and do in it, so.
Something like that. That is a good time. That's a good time, you know. And really, the central component of that song is the most simple thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
And when you clap, right? Now, I think when you clap in tempo, this is where I'm going to geek out. Some people will hear that like 4 on the floor. But when that clap comes in, even before you hear anything else around it, it's clearly swinging.
It all stems from what you love, too. I love, you know, in the mornings can be tough. Are you a morning person?
Nope.
I also am not a morning person unless we stayed up, and then I'm like, it's the morning. I feel a sense of pride, you know. It's like, but I'm looking for ways to avoid grumpiness in the morning, because that's not a way to start the day.
So this is it.
Cab Calloway, Dean Martin. Mm-hmm. You know, if you listen to many of the Mucha and like all the swinging stuff, you know, that sort of swing just after morning after morning after morning for like a few years of just going there, you know, you start to go.
Yeah. What would it sound like if we did that?
Yeah, like where do we belong in all of this?
One of the weirdest songs on the record, which I absolutely love, and is a classic example of Queens of the Stone Age, and you know, at your most sort of unruly and just like arrangement-wise as domesticated animals, and you just push and push and push and push and push and push and push, and then I'm exhausted. And I'm like, can you just leave me alone? And you're like, nope. And you push and push. You just keep. It's
well,
like you keep prodding.
It's not too.
But you bring it back. But it's a remarkable piece of music, man.
I mean, you know, I think it's very episodic, maybe, and there was a couple things that were important to me.
It has 4 endings, you know that, right?
Yeah, but you know, you never know. It's like choose your own.
It's a buffet of endings.
You were asking why Ronson too, and I think one of the reasons was to act like a talisman as a reminder of, you know, listening to Uptown Funk, right? It's very tight and vacuous. It sounds f***ing great. And I was like, I knew I wanted to make something very tight and with the air sucked out of it and very clear, you know? And so he was just a great reminder just as an opening. And then his desires are so beat-centric, and so are mine, that we had this tremendous amount of overlap. And then, you know, that sort of giggling over the gold, like the excitement of creating something. He has that. And so for something like Domesticated Animals, which was almost called Where the Gold Is, because it, that it was very episodic and had, we during the making of this, I kept calling things, we're going to crescendo camp, where things take over for a second, because it was like, why can't something take over the mix and bury it, and then when the tablecloth is pulled, you reveal this next thing. And he was very into that idea. So was Mark Rankin, who we worked with on the last record, as well. And so, you get these philosophies that you start working on, and they sort of take over. And Domesticated Animals was just a great example of what we're willing to do.
I want to talk to you about, bold to say, but I'll protect myself a little bit. I'll say one of your finest songs ever. And I think probably your most touching song ever, which is Fortress, which is just, man, that song is, I listened to that. It was the last song I listened to again before I came in today to talk to you. I had to put it on the car, just isolated outside the track listing, just listen to it again. And I sat outside Pink Duck in here in Los Angeles and just listened to that loud in my car. And it was a moment, lyrically, you've nailed that one.
Well, I think, we both have we're both fathers, and if you've ever, and moreover than that, if you've ever struggled with somebody or wanted to try to give them the best of you, and in the hopes that it helps them, and I think what you also realize is, like, if you really love something, you agree to give yourself away to it, no matter, if you're going to destroy me, then that's what's going to happen, and I'm okay with that. And so and again, that being the most vulnerable you can be, that's kind of becoming where I want to be honest that way, because my daughter can always listen to that song, and even when I'm gone, she'll have that, and the music is my way of saying things that are difficult for me to understand and say. And in many cases, I learn to say the things after I play them, because it's the best teacher for me, and also I'm able to address things that are difficult for me to get out otherwise. And I think I've come from a school of things where it's like, the rug, that's for sweeping under, but playing allows me to pull that back, and I've sort of banked my whole way of life on that, and that's why if I have a lyric that I don't support, I can't sing it. I go, you fraud, you'll watch me pacing back and forth, going, talking to myself, going, how dare you even try to sing? Oh, now you're going to sing that? You're going to all this other. You're going to walk in here and sing that on. And it's like, the amount of times I've been like, I need a minute to talk to this person. I look and there's no one there, and I think, oh my God. But I have banked everything on it being real for me, so I can't cheat. And if that's why, Feet Don't Fail Me Now was much more braggadocious, I would say.
Which is a big side of your band too.
Yeah,
Swagger.
because eventually you go, well, I'm sick of feeling this way, so and that's how I feel, and so Smooth Sailing comes out of that, where it's like, well, I don't care anymore, and it's from a good place,
But you had to write Fortress to get to that point. It's like, yeah.
You have to admit that there's Fortress, to get to that place. And
I reckon you must
because that's the balance, right? Yeah.
You must be very difficult, I'd imagine. And I mean this is a compliment when you're not in that place, or when you're in the thick of doing vocals or writing lyrics or whatever. I think, I don't mind saying this now because I'm sure he won't care. But remember we had Dave on the show the other day live, Dave Grohl, and in between the songs he was like, I got kicked out of the studio twice when they were making this new record. Twice! Because he rolled in apparently at one point after drinking tequila, and Mark was in the boards, and you were doing vocals, having a real problem with this thing, and you were just like, intense, Josh. And Mark was like, no! Close the door! He's like, I got kicked out of Studio by Mark Ronson.
I love that Ronson did that though, because and really exemplifies why I really loved working with Ronson, why we become really close, because he protected me in that moment, and in a certain way he protected Dave too. Because it's no secret, sometimes I see red and I really don't have any friends or family in that moment. I just get so, I wish I didn't, I sometimes feel like a bullshit artist in a china shop.
Do you go through life kind of assuming that you have to have a little money in the bank just in case? Because you can be that guy?
I do, I do.
Head like a haunted house? Did I get that right? Did I get that right?
That is right.
So let's talk about that one. I mean, that one actually, that's unusual for this particular record because it clocks in under 6 minutes, which is, What is it? Why did that one make it onto the record? Just a few words from the artist about why you love that song.
I love that song because it screams "Yee-haw" in your face to wake you up, and it sort of proudly has the fits and the shakes, I've always liked the gentle sickness of being out of control, and I think that song, when you listen to it, from the first time you hear it, you realize you're behind it. It's taken off in front of you, It's like a runaway horse. You just go after it, but you never,
You never catch it.
Yeah.
When you came up with the title Unreborn, how long did you actually laugh for?
Unreborn again, yeah. I just think that's, I think we're still laughing now.
Really? Is there a story about making that particular song in the studio? Is there something that was particularly challenging or unique about that
Unreborn
experience?
again?
Yeah.
Well, I think in an old school Queen's way, we would have gone really long or something, and sort of in a linear fashion, things would come in and out. But there's a really great surprise in that song that's right at the kind of apex moment. And I think...
Which happens a couple of times on this record too, and I wondered whether that was a you and Mark, like, hey man, what if?
I started, from my own perspective, that I wanted to make things, instead of long, just tall, dense with information, and I really want to genuinely surprise people at moments in the music. And I think where you really hear Ronson's impact is something like Haunted House, which there's just, that song could have been just a really straightforward punk rock song, and he really was driving for like things popping.
Events,
yeah. And he was like, you wanted events, and so let's go. And so he was really instrumental in driving events in that song.
The impact of your work with Iggy Pop on Post-Pop Depression, which is an amazing record, and an incredible, if it is his final album, an incredible final album, is most heard, in my opinion, on Hideaway. Like, I feel like that's a song with the use of the synths and the arrangement and the feeling of that song. The feeling of that song feels like that moment to me in some respect.
Yeah, I mean, I learned, I feel like I learn a lot every record, and with the Iggy record, there's so much space in between things, and also endings, like focused a lot on, the last 10% is where most people give up.
It's true. The end of Hideaway is like, it's a beautiful reward.
Something happens that you have not heard, and I spent a lot of time on endings with Iggy. Like, you need to get to a part we have not heard but that is part of the rest of the song, really, And so Hideaway has that moment of like, and there's an optimistic feel to that song, like, but really it was writing about the cover, It's like, the devil certainly would at some point be like, we're moving to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can, someone's on the edge here,
It's a strange town like that.
Yeah, and I think it's tailor cut for standing on the veranda being like, I'm going to get a lot of people to travel south.
Hey, what's your favorite Iggy Pop memory of working with Iggy on that record? What's your favorite memory?
I loved the mornings, waking up together and saying, "Morning, Iggy," and just when we were in the desert, it was he and I that were in one house, and and the guys were staying at the different little houses on the property, and as I said in there too, people always want to tell you what the truth is. You know what the truth is, and I just don't like that much. I like to do something and then witness our collective truth together. And so I think Iggy has been at the vanguard of music, ahead of his time so much that it's lonely, that Stooges are a time release of 30 years, and his great solo records they're only 12 years ahead of their time. It's like, and so I think there's a lot of loneliness associated with that and feeling not respect in your time. And I loved seeing him realize, to a certain degree, the vast amount of people that are Iggy supporters just waiting for their moment to get together. And so I mean, I know he understands people dig him, but I love that everything sold out in about 30 seconds, because it was a great example of how people feel about him. And it was a good way for me to explain how I felt about him. And so I liked being part of something like that was a good explanation about this is how people think of you,
Is he a morning person?
Yes, he is. And I also, for years I've sort of used Iggy as a litmus test for a few things like intake and things like that.
Yeah.
Because, he's had well-documented moments of being on stuff, and but he still is able to have, a glass. He has a bottle of wine each night at dinner, one, and it's like I dig that. That's awesome, because I don't like a lot of the way the world is set up a little bit, and like you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that. It's like that's what you would say if you were trying to keep your hand on someone's head, you would say that. Like, you got to carve your own path and find your own way, and I think he's done a wonderful job of that. And it's inspiring because I like to do that too. I like to find the way that's right for me and influence people to find the way that's right for them,
The Evil Has Landed is just one of my favorite things you guys have ever done. Just immediately, the first time I heard it, it's just got all of this kind of, like you talked about, the global spherical nature of writing songs, and that one just feels like we're constantly doing this barnyard dance around with this riff attached to it.
And it's one of those things where it's it's 6 minutes.
It goes by
But it goes by
fast,
quick,
super fast.
and nothing ever really repeats itself
No,
that
crazy.
much. And when it does, it's spinning around.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's a really short version of what that would have been in an old school way. It's
Yeah.
the shortest version,
Yeah.
And I also think there's a bit of like my early influence it's just got a very desert style.
Yeah.
There's a bit of science, and a bit of like,
I feel like you're never too far away from that, and even just being here in the valley, I feel like, you could reach out and grab those mountains, and I feel like you're always, you've moved to the Big Smoke, you're in Los Angeles, you've got family here, your kids go to school here, yada, 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 but I always feel like you're never too far away from the desert.
well, when I first moved here, I mean, I never thought I was going to live anywhere in particular. I think a lot of people move to Los Angeles going, well, I'll stay here for a couple years, and I don't even know, I think it's been like 18 years here, I don't know. But I always go back to the Des all the time. And when I moved here, I moved to the Valley because I was used to having a yard, because everyone in the yard has a yard space. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, if it ever goes down here, I know all the back roads to get to home, So I moved here based on like a doomsday prepper. Like, how do I get home, Like, I remember when I bought...
If you're prepping for Doomsday, we are all completely... By the way.
Well, it's like I'm armed to the teeth with cans of food, and armed to the teeth. Yeah, I mean, even when I bought this motorcycle, it's like, okay, I can put Brody here, I can put one of the kids here, and this thing. It's because
wow, you always have one eye on the door.
Well, yeah, man, because it's crazy out there. The world's a crazy place.
Have you worked it out? Have you worked out what the future looks like in the desert when it all ends? Have you gone deep on this?
One of the great things is in the desert you can see someone coming,
Oh my God, full Mad Max. Full Mad
Yeah,
Max.
you go, oh my God, they're coming. And 20 minutes later, you're like, they're still coming. They're still coming because there's
The
no
great
trees in
irony
the
is
way.
that in your dream, it'll be you in your souped up Cadillac, but really the reality is it'll be in the Toronto.
I got a great little place in this canyon, and so it's like, and it's up high. And I remember, oh man, this is like giving away too much, but I remember buying it and thinking like, okay, it's up high. I can see there's actually water behind it over there. And I'm kind of muttering to myself, and the lady was like, sorry, what are you saying? And I was like, don't worry about it. Oh, shit.
That's too good.
But I always have, planned for rain, but prayed for sun,
Yeah. The album closes with a song called Villains of Consequence, which in some respects... Circumstance.
Cut! Go ahead.
Yeah. It ends with a song called Villains of Consequence.
Villains of circumstance. Cut! The album ends with Annals of Quasenstops. Is that some weird New Zealand? I don't even think.
I'm going to call it Villains just so that we can finish this interview. So it's a title track of sorts.
Yeah, it is, and you know the song because I wrote it, and about 20 minutes before you interviewed me, it was
Yeah, we
doing
were
in
with
Austria.
Where were
Ljubljana? No, we were in Ljubljana.
How do you even remember that? I mean, I don't even...
Dude, I'm
That's
doomed
crazy.
to remember so much.
And
I
we
wish
were
I
in a
could
church
forget.
up on a hill,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah. And you pulled out your guitar and said, this is a great story. He was like, hey, you know what? That was a great interview. I'm going to play you guys a song you've never heard before. And he sort of pulled his guitar out like, I'm going to smash the shit out of this. And you played it. And how did you play it, Josh?
I went, down. No, wait. But by then, too, I'd been drinking all this tequila, because they're, plying me with booze. He needs us to say something, whatever he's going to say, which I'm both say anything. And so I go, wait. Da-da, wait. And I just blew it so hard that all these balloons filled up behind me. But it's hard. It's hard. No, it was so brand new, and I that was the second tune I had for this.
Is the plan to carry on for us until you drop? Is that the plan because it's so much fun and you enjoy it and it's your life and you've earned it?
This is what I do, and it's too late. I'm chained to this wheel, and I'm gonna do this till it's all over, And really the goal is to make your last record your best record, which is the most difficult thing to do.
Yep.
And that's what I want to do. So, I'm just gonna keep doing that.
I asked Dave this the other day. I got to ask you, man, because I know what the immediate future holds, and there's Queen's touring to be done, and you've always been a faithful, relentless touring band. But what's the appetite for a Vultures record?
I would love to do that so much. I keep. It really is about time. It's about time, and we've been talking about that, and because it's one of those things where not even we would understand where to go. That sounds so exciting. What would you do? And it's like, well, I don't know. It's sort of like the way Gilligan's Island was started. It's just a 3-hour cruise, and it turns into something else.
Yeah.
Plus, I love Dave and Joan so much, that chance to spend time together. I think you end up working with someone that you care about just so you can hang out and spend the time, because there's so little time to do stuff, and that's the greatest excuse of all, to work with somebody is to spend time with them.